got some late breaking news. The revolutionaries can use.
FBI has gathered what it feels is sufficient evidence to charge President Biden's son Hunter with tax and gun-related crimes.
Sources familiar with the probe say investigators have sent their findings to the U.S. Attorney in Delaware. The president's son acknowledged in 2020 that he was the subject of a federal investigation into his taxes. A spokesperson for the U.S. Attorney's Office has declined to comment. Let's bring in CBS News senior investigative correspondent Catherine Harris.
And don't let all these people throw you. All of these people said that this was Russian propaganda at one time when Joe Biden was running. The reason Hunter Biden taxes is dirty from the dirty money he got from Ukraine and from the Chinese Communist Party. But 10% was going to the big guy, Jim Crow Joe. That pistol case is federal. And his wife got him busted for that pistol case. Because he threw the pistol out the window one day on a drug-filled bench in a trash can on the street. And she called the police and said, hey, that dude did that and blah, 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 blah. Federal. Hey, those taxes is dirty. They got the laptop. It's a bunch going back and forth. The Democrats and Republicans are at war. The Republicans went after Trump and his children. They getting Jim Crow Joe, his son. When he leave office, which he gonna be hell in high water, he gonna try to demand to stay in there for 4 more years, and all the Democrats around him gonna try to keep him in there because they already know what time it is. They not lying on Jim Crow Joe neither. He dirty, Hunter Biden dirty.
Heritage, Catherine, this is quite a development. Tell us, what have you been able to confirm?
No, we told y'all this was happening.
Well, Lana and Aaron,
Liars
based on
didn't want to
information
believe
from
it.
multiple sources coming into us in the last couple of hours, we can report that from the FBI's point of view, they think there is sufficient evidence, as you mentioned, for tax and gun-related charges, and that this evidence is now before the U.S. Attorney in Delaware for a final decision. What we can also report, based on our sources, is that this investigation has been going on for several years, even before Joe Biden became president. But it really accelerated earlier this year with sort of a drill down and focus on delinquent tax payments. And Hunter Biden was able to pay some of that back taxes with the help of a friend. The reason that's important is that
he did not need the help of a friend. They have plenty of dirty money offshore, and they have proof that he didn't pay his taxes on that dirty money, and he did not register as a foreign lobbyist. Joe Biden's brother is next. His brother's next. He did the same exact thing. They have got money from Iraq. They have got money from China, but the big whop was in Ukraine, and they impeached Trump for telling the truth. Now, they cannot do nothing but come out and tell y'all this, but they said all this was Russian propaganda. They got egg all over their damn face.
In tax law, just because you pay back tax doesn't really get you off the hook, so to speak. It's almost seen as an admission that you failed to pay the taxes in the first place.
What's interesting is Scott Pelley on 60 Minutes just last month asked President Biden about issues with his son and if he thinks ongoing issues with his son will have any impact on his re-election chances. And President Biden answered that he loves his son, he fought an addiction problem, he overcame it, he wrote about it. There's nothing I've observed, says President Biden, that would affect the president or the... He fought an addiction problem. Please, Jim Crow Joe said that you should get 5 years for every piece of crack that you found on you. I played that video. Well, they got the video of his son, Hunter Biden, with grams of crack all over the digital scale, recording himself, weighing up his crack. Well, about 50 years he didn't get, but y'all got it. You got the hard time while they got the paper. And my son, he's fought a drug addiction. Man, Joe, no, don't try to play that. You wanted time for us, but you want to get some drug counseling for your son. Nah, hell no. Your son also was then selling that shit. Don't play with us. The United States relative to Hunter. And in fact, this investigation has gone on for years. Why then, Catherine, the sudden turn and this development?
I think in part because of this focus on the back tax issues or tax delinquency. That's, from a legal perspective, a very straightforward case. It's essentially a document or a paper-driven case. We also understand the U.S. Attorney in Delaware has been looking at issues related to FARA, which is the Foreign Agents Registration Act. It's sort of a lobbying act, and then also related to China. These are much more difficult or problematic as a prosecutor because you have to get into issues of proving intent in a certain situation. So I think that's one of the reasons we've seen this acceleration and a certain amount of frustration by the FBI that they feel that they've got sufficient evidence to bring charges, but of course that's not their job. That decision rests with the U.S. Attorney in Delaware.
Oh, that's an interesting point. We had also, to Errol's comment, we knew about the tax issue, we knew about foreign lobbying, but this is also gun-related charges. I'm wondering if you can tell us more both about the charges and what you've learned about the timing.
Well, I don't want to speculate for folks given the nature of the subject, but what I would say from our reporting is that the gun-related charge has to do with allegations that either misleading information was included in an application or a registration for that weapon, and may in fact go to sort of the person who possesses it, their behaviors. I'll leave it at that, whether they may have any addiction-related problems.
But you see, the problem is, I told you, he threw that gun in the trash can, hide. His wife told the people he did. She sent somebody a trash can on crack, and they said, oh no, they got to get the gun away from that young man, but it is a felony what you did while you was possessing that gun, shooting in the air and stuff like that. And she is trying to sit back and pretend like, oh, no, addiction. She wouldn't be saying if it wasn't Jim Crow Joe's son.
But it's an issue of being misrepresenting or lying on an application for a weapon or registration of a weapon, which of course is a very serious charge as well.
You're not acting like a serious charge.
And what about the timing for this case moving forward right now, Catherine?
Well, what I would say to folks at home is, of course, we're coming up against the midterm elections, but we've spoken to a number of former Justice Department officials who have said to us that when you think about this principle that they don't like to announce major cases before an election, it wouldn't apply here. It wouldn't apply with President Trump either, for that matter, because these people are not on the ballot in November. But if you do think back a couple of years ago, if my memory serves me correctly, it was after the presidential election that we did get confirmation from Justice Department officials that the president's son was under federal investigation for a number of potential crimes.
All of this very important to keep in mind, Catherine.
Keep in mind that they tried to hide this from y'all. They said this was Russian propaganda, and they still trying to tiptoe around it. I can't wait for Tucker Carlson to run his episode. I'm going to give you the real story without all the fluff. Court figure. Follow me.